And therein lies sort of a deep thought. If you're going to take money that you could invest in Microsoft to help them grow their empire, and you're going to take your money out of that and put it into your own business and your own empire, you sort of have to have a strong belief in yourself, right? I mean, and I said in one of the episodes, you said if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boats. I mean, you really have to say, I'm done diversifying in all these other businesses, or at least a part of it, and I put it into my own business.
Yeah, so here's what I would say. I would say that is true regardless of how a business is financed. If you are going to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a very, very strong belief in your ability to lead and grow an enterprise. That's just it. Now, financing it, whether you're getting a bank loan, investing in your own retirement assets, using credit cards, you are taking on financial risk. So it is funding agnostic. That belief is something that is more related to going into business, not how it's financed.
So really, I mean, the ideal candidate for this would be someone who has a 401k or some kind of retirement savings, right? I mean, that's the person who needs to...
The demographic profile of someone who typically will use their retirement assets, has more than 50K in their retirement plan, is no longer working for the employer if it is being provided. So like a 401k, it has to be after they've left employment. Very few employers will actually allow people to roll retirement assets out of their 401k while they're still employed. So there are a few qualifying factors there, but it is typically for someone who's had 10 to 15 years inside of corporate America and now is ready to break free of that and start their own business.
And what is the danger of, because I've read just enough to be dangerous when it comes to this. There's a lot of regulatory things you have to do here. I mean, in terms of reporting to the IRS, you can't just take your 401k money out and start investing in some stuff. I mean, there's a process, right? I mean, there's a system, there's reporting. I mean, don't you have to seek professional advice to do this? Yeah,
so there are both formative requirements and then operational requirements.
Okay.
And from a formation standpoint, the individual has to have a corporation, a 401k plan or a qualified plan, but we use a 401k plan. And they have to be investing in a company that is engaged in the sale or exchange of a product or service, which generally is not an issue for businesses.
So you must have a corporation. Mm-hmm. And then what was the second one you had?
It needs to be a qualified plan, and a 401k is a qualified plan.
Okay.
So we set up, in most cases, you're setting up a corporation and a qualified plan, or 401k. And so what happens from there then is the individual, we're going to roll their retirement assets from wherever it's currently being held into the new 401k plan. And then that 401k is going to invest in the shares of that corporation.
So if somebody wants to pursue this kind of funding, they're watching this going, this is it. This is what I need. What's the first step? They just give you guys a call?
Yeah, they give us a call, and we walk them through both like I said, the formative and then the operational requirements, make sure that they're well informed of what obligations they'll be taking on, and then also aware of the services that we provide to them on an ongoing basis to ensure that they're accurately reporting on the 401k plan's activity, as you referred to a minute ago. And then once we go through that educational process, the client then, with their own advisors, has to determine whether or not this is a funding method that they want to pursue. Are
there other businesses that do what you do out there? Or are you the only? Because as I've looked up what you guys do, I mean, you clearly are the leader, one of the leaders. Is there other businesses that do this kind of thing too?
There are, yeah. I mean, I think like with any category, there are many players that play in this space. There's Bank of America and Wells Fargo. They compete. People know who they are. We are the largest provider of rollover for business startup arrangements in the country. But there are other companies that do what we do. There's probably a handful of those.
Yeah.
And it's a category that's growing in interest, and more people are utilizing this as an opportunity to invest in small businesses as opposed to publicly traded companies. And so as that category and awareness expands, more people are coming in all the time.
Now, the next area I want to focus on is these portfolio loans. Mm-hmm. On your website, it talked about this. I'll just kind of read the definition it had up on the site. It says, securities-based lending allows entrepreneurs to borrow against their personal stocks, bonds, and mutual funds without selling them, and use the proceeds as business funding. It sounds simple enough, but I think there's a few intricacies there. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that's all about?
Yeah, so we've partnered with a major securities firm in order to provide these types of services because we are not licensed brokers.
Okay.
So the portfolio loan essentially allows an individual to take a loan against securities that they already have today without actually selling them. So I'll give you an example. If you owned a home outright today, you had no mortgage on it whatsoever, you owned it at 100%, you could go get a home equity line of credit against that property. You don't have to sell the property, but you can take debt out against the value of it, okay? Similar method is happening here. If I have $100,000 in my personal securities portfolio, so I've got stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, they're worth $100,000, I can take $60,000 to $80,000 out against that as security, and I just have to maintain that LTV, or loan to value. So I knew what question was coming next, by the way. So what happens is if that $100,000 turns out to appreciate to now $110,000, I actually will have more ability to take capital out against that. As it comes down, though, I may have to supply more money to maintain the loan to value.